I want to take 10 more minutes of your time, because how many of you have actually, in this weekend or previously, managed to visit the village that we're at, Saint-Paul de Vence? Now, I don't need to take a poll. If you saw Saint-Paul de Vence, you thought, wow, I could live here. You went to the Fondation, and you saw the art. That's not just a museum. This is a very, very special place. Very special people came here. There's a hotel there called La Colombe d'Or. My mother did her honeymoon there, and my wife and I did our honeymoon there. And when you walk around, there are literally Picassos, Miros, and Calderas spread around. 2-3 years ago, I spent one day there before we did our conference, and I was jet lagged. 5:30 in the morning, I went for a run. No one there. So I thought, now is the time to look. So I went up to the Picassos and I pulled them off the wall and just looked. No security, no wires. It's just trust. This is the place that James Baldwin, when Sir Martin Luther King was assassinated, he escaped here as a gay man, as a poet, as a black man, because he felt safe here. All of us, I think, feel what's special about this. All of us consider, could I be here? But only one of us did it. Funnily enough, through the weird system of serendipity that is IRG. Tomorrow we have Charles Holmes, who's a very special person and deserves his own introduction. He will be really facilitating the closing session for us. But as we were talking about being here, and he said, where exactly in the south of France is it? I said, it's in Saint-Paul de Vence. He goes, you're kidding. I said, no, really. He goes, my best friend lived there for a year. I said, you're joking. He goes, oh my God, really? If he hears that I'm going to Saint-Paul de Vence, he will want to come to Saint-Paul de Vence. And this is like 3 months ago, and all of that actually manifested itself in a trip where Paul Shore, who wrote the book Uncorked that we shared in the app, and his daughter are touring Paris and Saint-Paul de Vence. And I said, will you please just share 10 minutes of how it happened that you lived in Saint-Paul de Vence for a year. So Paul, welcome.
An empath following a talk about empathy, we're in deep trouble. With that introduction, with my best friend, my daughter, okay, I need a second to collect myself. Incredible. Absolutely true. So it turns out that these little, you may have seen the men play, and women as well, but mostly old grumpy men play pétanque in Saint-Paul de Vence. You have in your little kit, you have this little sort of like hanky that's meant for cleaning the dust off the balls, because you would never want one to slip and make the faux pas of smacking the ground and not looking cool. But tonight I think it comes in handy as a hanky. Who knew? Wow, coming back here. So let me get set up a little bit here. Coming back here. It's just a mind-blowing full circle experience that I lived in this town over 26 years ago. And you'll have to ask me the story later. Just that was serendipity as well, just the fact that I came to live here. And here I am, full circle, back here. A place that inspired me, really, it awakened an interest in culture, in the arts. And here I am, full circle, back here all these years later, spending a lot of my life these days awakening young children, I'll tell you about it in a minute, to hope and opportunity in this world of climate change. And hopefully maybe awakening and inspiring some non-children. In between those years, I had a long career in the semiconductor industry, welcomed 2 beautiful children into the world, one who's sitting right here. Pinch me, give me a virtual pinch. I cannot believe we're here. I worked for the Olympic Games of 2010 in Vancouver for a couple of years in a really cool business development role. I wrote a best-selling book, a memoir about that year that inspired me. And then since then, sort of an epiphany of global consciousness, stimulated by my kids actually, has resulted in me now writing kids' books on climate action. This is the first one. There's a second one on its way, and finding myself speaking to parents and educators and kids in schools. Not this kind of audience anymore typically, but it's good to be back in front of this kind of audience. So let me take you back to 1999 in Saint-Paul de Vence, and a little scene. Well, my best friend's name was Hubert. Hey, Hubert, you know that game that the old men play down by the cafe, with the big metal balls? I kind of like watching that game a lot. Do you play? Of course I play. I'm French. Excellent. Will you teach me? Wow. No words, just smoke, huh? To take that as a no, why not? Because you're not French. And no kidding, that's how it started. That was my introduction, when I thought my one victory in French culture was going to be to learn this game, because I kind of like games like this with coordination and strategy, and that was what I got. That was my reception. Well, do you know the expression "curiosity killed the cat"? Yeah? Well, good. In case for some of you it doesn't translate too well, it means that a curious cat might put itself in danger of actually being killed. Well, there's a second part of that expression that goes, but satisfaction brought it back. It's not a very well-known part of the expression, meaning that daring to be curious could bring you such learning and such satisfaction from that learning that it actually might infuse life back into you. Well, this chap does not take no for an answer easily, and does not interpret smoke blown in his face several times as a definitive no, more of a haze or an unclarity to be waded through to a solution. And I wonder, in fact I think I know, seeing the faces in this room and your backgrounds, how about a show of hands? Who has had the equivalent of smoke blown in their face in the corporate world in their life, told no, and they're like, no, I'm gonna get, yeah, probably all of you, every single one of you, so you can relate. So what if in this challenged world that we live in today, if getting through that smoke blown in our faces, if overcoming the challenges, whether it's climate or social challenges, was really a matter of clearing smoke from our faces, seeing through to our purpose, getting creative as all France, and moving forward with solutions. So back to my story, a week or so after the "you're not French" gauntlet was thrown down in front of me, I came back from a business trip in St. Paul. You could picture this. I come back, I'm pulling my suitcase over the cobblestone streets. I look like an animal in the zoo. Like, I do not fit. I absolutely do not fit in this place, and everybody watches me from their upper story windows like, what's with the guy who doesn't slow down? And I'm coming back like so many nights from the Nice airport in the dark, and Hubert literally surprises me, jumps out. He's been waiting for me to get back. He knew when I was coming back. And he says, "Maintenant." And I'm tired, and like, what clandestine affair is about to start at this hour in the dark? I don't have a lot of patience for this right now. So I said, "Maintenant what?" And Hubert said, "Maintenant I teach you the game." And I thought, in the dark, okay, and off he went with his dog, heading off down towards the petanque pitch. So I threw my suitcase into my little cave-like apartment and followed these guys down to the petanque pitch, and I thought, really, this is what it's going to be. It has to be in the dark. That's fine. I want to play this game so badly that I will learn in the dark. And off we went. And over the next 2 months, he would take me a couple times a week, always in the dark, to learn the game. And the game, not just physically the game and the rules of the game, but he insisted to teach me the culture behind the game. He wanted to know that I appreciated what was behind this sport and what was behind his town and his country before he was going to let me, become a debutante. So, in the dark, it had to be with the lessons about French culture. For example, one was, do you know that Yves Montand, to which I said, Yves Montand. Big mistake. Yves Montand, the famous French actor and singer. Okay, Yves Montand. You know, he was a lover of Marilyn Monroe. Whoa, okay, all right, Yves Montand. Do you know that he played here all the time? You need to have respect for here. Okay, I'm listening, I understand. Or Marc Chagall. Marc Chagall lived half his life in this town painting masterpieces and once said, when I create from the heart, everything works. When I create from the head, nothing. I like that. Okay. So I was taking in these lessons. Then the next challenge that Hubert and his friends put me up to was they sent me by myself with only my broken French and my petite Canadian charm down to buy my own set of these balls. Which you would think, it can't be that complicated. Well, I thought that too, till I wound up in the store in Valoris, bombarded by questions in French about the size of my hand, the strength of my arm. Really? There's minute difference? Yes, there are very minute differences between these. It's really important, sir. You need to really think about it. And the type of player that you are on the team. It's played in teams of two, and there's usually two types. Luckily, I knew that I was a pointer, luckily, or I don't think she would have let me bought any balls that day. Thrown me out of the store. So when I returned proudly that day to home in Saint-Paul de Vence with this guy and his two companions, at that time it was shiny, perfectly smooth, perfectly shiny. And now if you look closely at it, it's dented, it's pitted. It's scratched. It's marked up like our lives, right? From the ups and downs that it's been through, from landing on rocks, from tumbling, from having some hard times. But it's perfect to me, right? It reminds me, it's comfortable in my hands. It reminds me of life lessons learned, of friends made, of funny gestures made from the sides of the court, like. So then came the magical day when Hubert decided we could play in the light. With locals, 2-on-2, as a team. No longer the dark, literally stepping into the light. And for the next many months, we played together, and it was life-changing for me. It did become my victory, my one breakthrough into French culture. And one day there was a weathered old guy, probably the age I am now, who had his arms crossed, and he would watch us day in and day out. He would watch us, study us, watch us. Well, he's watching me, the little Canadian. And he said, in a way that everyone else could hear after a shot I made, "Il a le sens du jeu." He has a sense for the game. And Hubert gave me one of these, without saying anything else. And it was clear he meant that I didn't just play the game, that I understood deeply the game, that I'd taken the time to understand the game. And it was at that moment that it wasn't lost on me that I was becoming a part of that place, and it was becoming a part of me. So fast forward to the last day in my year. It was roughly a year that I lived in Saint-Paul de Vence. My bags are packed. It's time to go back to Vancouver. The startup I've been working for had been acquired by a big Californian semiconductor company. It was time to go, unfortunately. And it was time for our last match. And we didn't play particularly well as a team that day, Hubert and I, but it didn't matter. We were really living in the moment. We were living in our friendship. We were reminiscing. And it didn't. I don't even think we won. It really didn't. It didn't. But as we wrapped up, a figure came across the petanque grounds, and I was really surprised. Andy, who played petanque frequently, who I had said hi to many times but never really spoken with a depth. Andy, she smoked a pipe all the time while she played petanque. They led me into a little building to the left of the cafe that, like Andy, I had never contemplated, never dared thinking about approaching until that moment. They walked me in there, we sat down, they asked what I'd like to drink, a pastis, of course, I'm a petanque player in Saint-Paul de Vence. And then, watch out, Andy reached into her pocket and pulled out this. It's a little card. It has some basic facts on it. My name, my address in St. Paul, my phone number, the year 1999, an issue number 607. Across the top it says Cercle d'Union Saint-Pauloise. And then under that are the three most important words. It reads carte de membre. Membership card. It was really a special moment, as you can tell. And with that, I'd like to leave you all with a challenge. If it hasn't happened to you already in your life, walk through that smoke blown in your face. Be that curious cat. Find your purpose. Find your Saint-Paul de Vence.
Your daughter as well. Thank you for making the connection, Charles, and everybody. Welcome to them. What a great day.